What's up YouTube, Chris from the Review Cave here, back again with another video. But this time I'm going to be talking about why you should give Black Clover a shot and why it is secretly an amazing series. Now before you guys go and either praise me or destroy me because of me liking Black Clover, let me go ahead and say that Black Clover is not the most amazing series of all time. That is not what I'm saying. It's a series that you will enjoy no matter what. It has a lot of good things going for it, and the good things outweigh whatever bad things people say about the series or any negativity going towards it. So that's what I'm going to focus on in this video, and hopefully I change your mind on Black Clover if you believe it to be a horrible series based on word of mouth or the beginning of the show. Before anything, let me just clear up that the anime is slower than the manga. That is a given at this point, and that is what makes the anime so, how do I put this, so underrated and so stigmatized by the anime community as a whole, mainly because Black Clover was originally supposed to be 51 episodes for its first season, but the second they were getting close to the 51 episode mark, the studio decided to start airing it weekly like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. And honestly, that is a very big issue considering that most other shonen series that are getting anime adaptations, you know, aside from One Piece at this point, are doing everything as a seasonal thing, one season every year. And if Black Clover got this treatment, it would have been talked about a lot, because in the manga, the pacing is fast-paced, but not to the point where you don't know what's going on. It has a good sense of pacing, of self. It keeps the story constantly moving to the point where you know almost everything that's going on, but there's still more left that you want to see. The anime doesn't do this at the very start, mainly because of some budgetary constraints, I assume. I haven't really fully looked into that part of it, but the first 20-something episodes are slow. That is something that is unavoidable, and that is pretty much a death sentence for any anime. But there are devoted fans, like myself, to the series that have kept watching. Now, one thing I want to tell you is why I myself, who admits that when I first started watching Black Clover, I wasn't super hyped about it, and it wasn't the most interesting series that I've seen. Now, why did I continue to watch Black Clover if it had this big negative stigma, not to mention with Asta's annoying screaming?
Can you explain why we should admit you into our prestigious institution?
For one, Asta's voice is more bearable after the first 2 to 3 arcs. Asta's yelling gets downplayed a lot as the series progresses, and it seems that Asta himself is maturing as a character and as a person. Granted, not by a whole ton, but it's just to the point where he acts more mature in a sense. He's still Asta, he still has that overhyped personality, that go-to attitude, a guy who will get into a fight to help other people if he can. The thing about Asta is that he is the living embodiment of someone who comes from nothing to the occasion, which essentially takes a lot of inspiration from Naruto. One of the reasons why I like it is because it basically takes two of my favorite series, Naruto and Fairy Tail, and don't stigmatize me because I like Fairy Tail, I will wear that badge till the day I die, and basically improves upon both the tropes and some of their plot points in its own way. You want a good power system where you can increase your power based on your mental state. That's what Black Clover is. There are videos going over the power system of Black Clover, but to put it in more digestible bites so I don't get too off topic, Black Clover's power system is essentially this grimoire power system where there are multiple spells that are given to someone once they turn 15 or 16 years old, and depending on what kind of magic they have at birth, those are a type of spells they can use depending on that kind of magic affinity or whatever. And the best part about this grimoire is that most pages are blank, and the spells you use depend on your mental state, your view of the world, and your own personality. So essentially, it takes the whole, when a person changes and they get stronger, to a more literal degree. When a character changes their view on the world and others around them and change for the better or change for the worse, it will be shown by their magic. And that is something I found very interesting. I found this out in the dungeon arc, essentially, when it came to Yuno and Locke. Two really good characters in my opinion, and their magic depicts essentially their personalities, and when things get tough, Yuno especially got a new spell that really helped out when it came to saving the day at the very end of the arc. Now, honestly, Black Clover's characters are one of the biggest things that kept me invested in the show. The main cast of the Black Bulls, which is essentially Black Clover's version of the Fairy Tail Guild, are some of the best troped characters in all of shonen, and I love it. Each of them, while not particularly improving character-wise all the way through, are so likable and you love their characters. They will change slightly, but keep their core personality of what makes them who they are, and you will love them nonetheless. Characters I want to talk about are honestly some of my favorites in the Black Clover story and in the Black Bulls specifically. They're Captain Yami, Noelle, Zora, and Vanessa and Luck. Yami Tsukihiro, the captain of the Black Bulls, the manliest man around. He is essentially a past shonen protagonist who became the mentor. Literally, he is self-aware of all of the shonen tropes of how a main character ends up fighting some kind of implausible opponent, and then they end up getting some weird power boost where they can end up succeeding. He literally says, every time he's in a tough battle, he says, well, I guess it's time I surpass my limits. And then he says that to everyone in his squad. Go and surpass your limits. That is literally his go-to catchphrase in any situation, and you will instantly fall in love with the guy. Yami is badass incarnate. Now, he's no Escanor, mind you, but he is honestly my favorite character in Black Clover at this point. Moving on, we have Noelle. She is essentially comes from a noble family in the Clover Kingdom. She has immense magical power, which is why she's essentially a noble, because when you have more magical power and a ton of money, you are essentially a noble and in the higher class of the Clover Kingdom.
1% represent.
But she was basically mocked by her own family and almost disowned because she had no control over her vast amount of magic, to the point where she couldn't even get accepted by any other Magic Knight squad. Only Yami saw potential in her and essentially was like, you're joining, yeah, potentially you're going to be part of the Black Bull. And honestly, Noelle is the classic tsundere character where she acts like she doesn't care about anyone and acts mean to everyone, but secretly she cares about everybody. And I love that because as the series progresses, despite her keeping that whole tsundere persona, she does actually show how she cares about everyone in the Black Bulls and how she's begun to trust everyone in the Black Bulls as if they are her friends, her family, which essentially they are. And this shows in the fact that she will end up getting stronger as a wizard or a mage and ends up helping them out on more than one occasion when her magic finally fall under her control to the point where she can actually stand a chance against powerful opponents without having to worry about hurting her friends in the process. Now, going on, we have Luck. He is one of my favorite characters. He's the classic character in any shonen that always looks for a fight. Whenever he sees a powerful opponent, he will go up and challenge him for a fight. This is literally Luck's whole character when we first see him. Always ready for a fight. He keeps moving on so he can fight. Anyone he wants in the Black Bulls, he constantly asks for a fight. Even Yami, who he has no chance of beating, continuously asks for a fight. Now, Luck in the dungeon arc, which is the second main arc in the Black Clover story, is honestly the best arc in showing us Luck's backstory and why he has the mentality of always fighting and always winning. But the thing is, this arc helps teach Luck how to be a team player, why it's better to win when it's with your friends, and how this ends up helping Luck out in the future, because he ends up being one of the biggest team players ever. Even if though he wants to win all the time and wants to constantly be in a fight, he has learned how to put his friends above anything else, and that's why I love Luck. Moving on to Vanessa. Vanessa is a character that, honestly, when you first get introduced to her, you think she's just a lazy alcoholic who doesn't really do anything. At least until the Water Temple arc and the Witch's Forest arc. In the Underwater Temple arc, she ends up helping Asta and Finral, another pretty funny character that I have to say, in helping take out one of the big bads of the series, Veto, in a major fight. She usually tends to stay away from the action just so she doesn't get hurt or gets in anyone's way. But in this fight, she decides to help out Asta by using her own magic to try and redirect his trajectory to make sure he doesn't get hit with a fatal blow. But nothing sums up Vanessa's character more than the Witch's Forest arc, where she comes in contact with her mother after Vanessa ends up leaving because of being imprisoned so she can learn some kind of powerful magic because of her thread magic. Now, Vanessa, being faced with a horrible sight of having the Queen of Witches use Asta as a puppet to try and kill her friends, in that very moment, she ends up manifesting the power that her mother wanted to solely want. One that she imprisoned her own daughter just so she can get. Thread of Fate, where essentially Vanessa's magic takes on this cute cat-like form, and it is nearly indestructible. Now, this essentially makes it so that Vanessa can alter fate. Whenever there's something that ends up affecting, like killing or tragically injuring a member of her family, which is the Black Bulls, or anyone she cares about, that magic will end up turning back the clock to the point where this never happened. Only Vanessa will know what's going on. And this really shows to the fact that Vanessa truly does care for all of her friends and how she is willing to take up a role of actually fighting in order to protect them. Now moving on, one of my favorite characters is Zora. Zora is literally what comes when a low-class citizen ends up getting dealt one of the worst hands in life. His backstory is that his father was a magic knight, the first commoner to become a magic knight, and he was good. He helped so many people out, but the thing is, Zora ended up hearing something that he never thought was possible. Members of his dad's magic knight squad, who were asshole nobles that ended up hating him just because he was a commoner, ended up killing him and made it look like an accident. Zora finds this out and ends up dedicating his entire life to taking down any magic knight who dares call himself a magic knight while they are harming citizens and abusing their own power. Zora literally becomes a vigilante in the world of Black Clover. He uses a type of trap magic, well, ash magic, which he uses to make traps. And he uses that constantly to one-up his opponents and throw them off. We don't get an introduction to him until episode 70. But he is a really cool character because he is the embodiment of someone who is dealt the worst hand imaginable, but ends up still being a good person, despite him dedicating himself to getting vengeance for his father and teaching the Magic Knights what it means to be a Magic Knight. What makes this even better is that Yami, who isn't a traditional Magic Knight, ends up recruiting him behind the door of anything else, without anybody knowing who he is, and he never joined the Black Bulls officially since he never accepted the robe, but by the end of the tournament arc, he has accepted his role as a Black Bull and ends up becoming more of a team player. There are moments where he does try and act a bit selfishly for self-preservation for the sake of the mission and the kingdom, but overall, he is an amazing character, and he helps out his friends more than anything else. Plus, the guy can be very conniving, and he is insanely smart and always thinks on his feet. That is something you gotta love in a protagonist. And he is a side character. He's basically got like a protagonist-like role in this sense, which I do love. Now, I've talked about my favorite characters for a while now, so let me just continue to go on with why Black Clover's pacing has improved. By episode 30, the pacing has gotten so much better to the point where it is almost unrecognizable from the very start. In the most recent arcs, Black Clover's pacing and animation have gotten a lot better. Let me mind you, there are still some animation errors, but you won't mind it because the main appeal of Black Clover is its characters and its setting, as well as the character interactions and development within the world. And obviously the fights. The fights are nothing to ignore. The fights are freaking amazing. Any fight with Yami is a treat for the eyes, and whenever you see Asta find a new way to use his anti-magic swords to take down an opponent that's clearly stronger than him is a treat for the eyes, as well as seeing other members of the Black Bulls or any other character overcome their own either mental blocks or some kind of misguided ideal or way of thinking in order to help out the main character or any of their friends and unlocking some new form of power. That is something that we all really should love and commend Black Clover for. It's a giant shonen trope played to 11, and it knows what it's doing. It will never stop being what it is. The story is simplistic, but at this point in the manga, with its pacing and with its story, it's honestly fairly interesting. It's not the most original series out there, but it takes everything from past shonen, adds it to itself, and it takes all the tropes and stereotypes and makes it its own, which is what helps make the series itself so memorable and so enjoyable. If you love nothing else, love Black Clover for its characters and its fights. That is all you really know. That is what makes Black Clover good. It's got some very good idealistic views on life and social standing. That part goes naturally with a kingdom type shonen, if it takes place in any sort of kingdom, which I really have to commend the author for doing. This is something that not many shonen do. One Piece is essentially a jack of all trades shonen, aside from unless you add aliens to it, and it is one of the best selling manga out there. It has stuff from other shonen, and it continuously improves upon its world and its story, and adding new characters that fit those types of role. Black Clover pretty much does the similar thing, but keeps it contained in its own world and story in a sense where it makes sense because the magic and all the characters are so vastly different, and so despite its very cliche appearance and characters, it'll be constantly enjoyable. But like I said, the main point of this video is to convince you to watch Black Clover. Black Clover is a great series. It deserves more respect and more fans. It deserves a lot more than all the crap it's been given. It has improved constantly over the past 2 years since it's been released, and it has done a lot for the community of manga and anime. It, while even though it has a ton of memes, is a good series. You really should watch it, especially if you're someone who loves shonen. If you like a series like My Hero Academia, for example, you will love Black Clover because, like My Hero Academia, it's got good characters, and it's got awesome fights and ideological disputes as well. If you like the constant adventure, like in One Piece or in Fairy Tail, or even the world building like in Naruto, you will like Black Clover. Black Clover is a culmination of everything that makes shonen shonen, and it is what you will love if you love shonen. But if you want to use Black Clover as a way to introduce someone to shonen, that could work too. The manga does everything so much better, so I highly recommend you read the manga more than watch the anime. But give the anime a shot, because if more people tune in to watch Black Clover, they'll most likely help improve it like they did with the end of Naruto, as well as what they're doing with One Piece right now, and put more towards the animation budget for Black Clover to make it a series that we'll all enjoy nonetheless. So, from everyone here at the Review Cave, I mean right now it's just me, but to everyone that is helping me work with this video, please give Black Clover the shot it really truly deserves. It is a shining gem in the rough. It might be Shonen's problem child, but it's got everything going for it to make it really enjoyable for anyone who loves shonen. I hope to do more kinds of videos like this in the future. Please like and subscribe, go down in the comments, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and let me know what you guys think of my videos and what kind of videos you would like to see. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys have an awesome day.
I have a boyfriend, and it's got a big dick!